Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Hatha practice. A few props that'll be handy for today. After just having a couple hard blocks nearby, you can leave them near the top of the mat for now. And then either a soft block or a cushion, something that you can sit up on comfortably. We'll actually get started in a seated meditation today, so take a moment to find any comfortable seated position. If cross-legged isn't available, then feel free to have the legs extended, or you can do butterfly, anything that feels comfortable. And if at any point you need to change it as well, then go for it. Take a moment to settle yourself in. If you feel a little fidgety, maybe have some movement first before you start to find your stillness. Plugging down through whatever's touching the floor, lengthening the spine, the neck. If it feels okay to close down the eyes, go for it. Hands wherever feel the most comfortable. As you do, start to check in, see what the body feels like today, see what the mind feels like. You are always welcome to modify your practice in any way that you need. If what you need is something a little more gentle, then feel free to add in some breaks for yourself. And feel free to take maybe the less intense option if there is one. Likewise, if you need something more energizing, feel free to add on and build on. Just keep listening to your body, to your mind, and see what you need and see what would benefit you the most. And building on this awareness of the mind and of the body, start to notice your breath here. And as you're ready, gently invite the breath to deepen. With each inhale, exploring a sense of space in the body, and with each exhale, grounding and softening. If you feel like you'd benefit from staying in stillness a little while longer, then feel free to stay for as long as it serves you. When you feel ready to start to move again, take an inhale breath and shrug the shoulders up towards the ears. And then let that go as you exhale. And twice more. Inhale, lift, and soften. Last one. Now, eyes can stay closed if you like, but if you're sitting cross-legged, then switch the cross of the legs to the opposite side just to keep things even. And if you need to change your stance altogether, then go for it. Awesome. From here, take an inhale breath, reach the arms up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, twist towards your left and let the hands land wherever they land. Maybe they're on the body or on the floor somewhere. The next inhale breath, plug down through the sit bones, lengthen the spine. As you exhale, you might even twist a little bit deeper. Staying here for about 5 more deep breaths. Last couple. And then next time you inhale, unravel back to center, reach the arms up, maybe lift the gaze. As you exhale over to the right, let the hands land. And take the first breath to set yourself to lengthen, maybe twisting a little deeper. Inhaling for space. Exhaling, softening anything you don't need. Awesome. Inhale, breath, unravel back to center, reach up. And keep the right hand up, but lower the left hand down. And take a deep inhale, lengthen the right hand side. And as you exhale, arc over to the left any amount. The right arm can stay extended. If you prefer to bend the elbow, go for it. If you want to turn the head a little, go for it. But breathe length into that whole right side from the hip all the way up to the elbow. The next time you inhale with a strong belly, reach the arms back up towards the ceiling. Exhale, breath, lower the right hand to the floor. Lengthen here. And over to the right, lengthening that whole left hand side. Generally mirroring whatever you did on the first side with that top arm. All right, inhale, breath, come all the way back up, reach the arms up, and then let that go. Give the arms a little bit of a shake out, release the legs here as well, maybe a tap of the backs of the knees or a little windshield wiper, see what feels good. If you're sitting up off of something, you can bring it out of the way, and then swing the legs around and we'll come to a tabletop position. Awesome. And take a moment to set the hands roughly underneath the shoulders, maybe slightly forward. Fingers spread nice and wide, and then tuck the toes under and start to tone through the belly, and then lift the knees just about an inch up off the floor. And now check in here, the hands actively pressing down, find that stability through the shoulders. Notice if you've lost your breath or if it got really choppy. All right, stay here. Take a deep inhale. Deep exhale. And take one final inhale, find a little length in the spine. As you exhale, send the hips up and back and find your downward facing dog. It'll probably feel good to pedal the heels a little bit here, maybe to sway the hips side to side. If you need to adjust something for your proportions, then go for it. If you want to experiment with taking hands or feet a little wider apart, see what that feels like. And find a version of down dog that feels really stable for you today. When you feel ready, you can find your stillness here, letting the head hang heavy, as much of a bend to the knees as you need to help the low back feel spacious. Awesome. Stay here. One last inhale. As you exhale, lower the knees down to the floor. Now take a moment to stretch out the wrist. You can flip the back of the right hand to the floor, fingers pointing towards the knee. And then without putting too much pressure down on it, you might imagine dragging it forward in space. It might offer you a nice stretch to the outside of the wrist. Awesome. And then for the other side when you're ready. Awesome. Back to your tabletop position. Hands roughly underneath the shoulders. If at any point you need to give the wrists a break, you're welcome to come to fists instead. And from here, send the left leg straight behind you in space, and just take a peek at the hips. Make sure that they're relatively in line with one another. And take a deep inhale here, lengthen from the crown of the head to the heel. And as you exhale, bring that left knee in towards the chest. And then inhale, send it back. And knee to chest. A few more like this. Keep going with your breath at your pace. Last couple. Last one. Now inhale, send the left leg back. As you exhale, bring the left foot forward between the hands, and it might need a little help to get there. Now from here, find your lunge, find a length that feels appropriate. If you want to pad the back knee, go for it. Also, if you want to send that right knee a little further back, go for it. And then from here, hands to your blocks. Inhale, breath, open the heart space, lift the gaze a little bit. And as you exhale, hips back any amount, left leg extends any amount. Inhale, come forward, low lunge. And exhale, hips back. Your breath, your pace. Last couple. Awesome. Inhale, breath, come forward, and then pause here. You can move your blocks out of the way, bring the hands down to the floor, lift that back knee up, and then send the left leg up in the air for three-legged dog. But for this three-legged dog, keep the hips square if you can, so that left hip in line with the right. Notice which hand might have more weight and see if you can activate them both evenly. And then that back leg, regardless of how high it's lifted, notice the hamstring of that leg. See if you can engage, lift a little higher. You can almost imagine that by pressing the hands down more, you can lift that left foot a little bit higher. Last couple deep breaths. Awesome. And when you're ready, lower that left foot down to the floor. Just give the hips a little bit of movement here. Rock the shoulders. And then with your next inhale, shift forward to plank pose. And then lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes, cobra pose. Inhale, lift the heart space. And exhale, soften down. And two more. Awesome. And with your next inhale, come back up to tabletop. And from your tabletop position, send the right leg straight behind you and check in with the pelvis, check in with that foot, toes pointing towards the floor. Inhale, breath, lengthen here, and right knee towards the chest. Keep going, your breath, your pace. Last one. Inhale, send the leg back. And exhale, step that right foot forward between the hands. And then check in here. Maybe that left knee a little further back. You can also take the right foot to the right a little if you need more room. And hands find your blocks when you're ready. Inhale, breath, open the heart space, lift. Exhale, hips back, half split. Flow with your breath. Last one. Inhale, come back to your lunge. Pause. And then you can bring your hands down to the floor. When you're ready, lift the back knee, send that right foot up in the air. Oops. Three-legged dog. This time, once again, pelvis is square, hands stay active, planting into the floor. That right leg active as well. You can flex the foot. You could even point the toes if you like, but notice the engagement through the back line of that right leg. Last couple deep breaths. And when you're ready, lowering that right foot down to the floor, a little movement. And then inhale, breath, shift forward. Exhale, breath, lower down. A little different now. Untuck the feet, bring the hands forward and to the sides. Inhale, puff the chest up, strange cobra. And soften. And 3 more. Last one. Awesome. Hands under the shoulders, lift to tabletop, and then hips towards the heels. Find your child's pose. So knees can stay together. If you prefer knees separate, then go for it. You can also add any props that make the shape feel more comfortable for you. Maybe something for the head or something between hips and heels. And choose stillness, maybe a little rocking. If you need a little more time in stillness, then feel free to stay and rest for as long as you like. And when you feel ready to move again, come back up to a tabletop position. And there's no rush to arrive, but when you do get here, lower the forearms down to the floor, keeping the elbows roughly underneath the shoulders. Hands can stay separate, or if you prefer hands together, if that feels better for you, then go for it. And then from here, send one foot to the back of the mat and then the other, finding your forearm plank. If it feels like you're stretched too long, you can bring the feet a little closer. If the low back is sensitive, feel free to lift the hips a little higher, see if that helps. Always the option to keep the knees grounded. Now, especially if the knees are lifted, imagine that the feet themselves stay active here. So the heels roughly stacked on top of the toes, and then length from the heels to the crown of the head. And stay here, deep inhale. And stay, exhale. Last inhale. And then lower the knees, then lower the pelvis, and then lower the chest down towards the floor. Send the arms back by your sides. And bring your fingertips somewhere near the hips, and then untuck the toes. And press the tops of the feet to the floor and activate the legs so that you can feel the kneecaps lift up. And then lift the shoulders up and bring them onto the back. Now inhale, breath, lift everything you can up off the floor. Maybe it's the head, the feet, maybe even the hands. And then pause wherever you are and check in. If there's anything you'd like to add on, then go for it. If there's anything that should come back to the floor, then go for that. And then make sure you're still breathing for 5 deep breaths. When you're ready, lowering everything that's lifted up, maybe turning your head to one side, maybe the hips like a little rock side to side here, and take a few breaths wherever you need. Awesome. If your head's turned to one side, then turn it to the other just so you can stay even here. And when you're ready, bring the head back to center, hands under the shoulders, and press up to a tabletop position. And then once again, we'll bring the forearms down to the floor, forearms parallel or hands together. And take a moment, find that stability of the shoulders, of the elbows pressing down. And then once again, one foot, then the other to the back of the mat, coming back to your forearm plank. And take any expression of a forearm plank here. If you like to close down the eyes, go for it. And then check in with your facial expressions. If it feels like the jaw is clenching or the brow is furrowed, then maybe you have the option to let that go a little bit. Last few deep breaths, but feel free to lower sooner if you need. All right, when you're ready with an exhale breath, lowering the knees, the pelvis, the chest down to the floor. And sending the hands back by the hips once again, untucking the toes, pressing the toenails to the floor, lifting the kneecaps, shoulders stacking onto the spine. And then with an inhale, as you're ready, lift hands, head, feet, anything you like up off the floor. Breathe here. And while things are lifted, don't worry too much about how high they're lifted. Think about lifting with length. So the crown of the head's reaching forward, the toes or the heels are reaching back, fingertips reaching out to the side, perhaps. Breathe here. If you'd like to stay for a couple more, go for it. And when you're ready, you lower everything down to the floor. And this time, if you like, maybe a block for the forehead, and slide the left knee up to the side. It might feel like a nice release for the low back, for the pelvis. And switching sides, if you have the left knee up, you can bring the right knee when you're ready. Awesome. Right leg re-extends. And you can move any props out of the way, hands under the shoulders. Inhale, press to a tabletop position. And then tuck the toes, lift the knees, find your downward facing dog. And take stillness here, take movement. If you'd like to take a flow, if that's part of your practice, go for it. And take about 5 breaths wherever you need. And from your downward facing dog, take a deep inhale and sigh it out. Deep inhale. Let it go. Last one. And then inhale, bend the knees, look forward. As you exhale, step, walk, hop. Bring your feet near the hands for a forward fold. Generous bend to the knees as much as you need to support the low back. Always the option to work from a halfway lift if that's better for the spine. If you're dangling, then maybe hands find opposite elbows, adding a little more weight, maybe a gentle rock or sway. Awesome. When you're ready, bring the hands to the shins, take an inhale breath, find a halfway lift, and then pause here as you exhale. And stay here, deep inhale, deep exhale. Last one. And then tone the belly, press the feet down, inhale breath, circle the arms all the way up to the ceiling. And when you arrive, if you're a little lightheaded, then keep the arms lifted for as long as you need. And then releasing your arms down as you're ready. And take a moment to find your mountain pose. So feet, whatever distance apart feels the most comfortable, the most stable. You can lift and spread the toes a little bit. And proud chest, soft shoulders. Maybe palms open. Maybe eyes closed down. Notice the sole of each weight. Notice where the weight is. See if you can balance that out. Notice your breath here. Awesome. When you're ready, you open the eyes, wiggle the fingers and the toes. We're going to set up to balance. So if you like to be closer to a wall, go for it. So to start off, lift and spread those right toes out and then lower them a little space in between. Notice the whole sole of that right foot, really plug it down. And then from here, lift the left knee to center. Actually, before we go anywhere, if you are using blocks, just have them near the top of the mat so that they're handy if you need them. And then, yeah, as you're ready, spread the right toes out, really ground down through that side, lift the left knee to center. And then check in here. If things feel really wobbly, feel free to use a wall. Also, having like a steady spot to gaze at can help too. You can point the toes or flex the foot. Notice the pelvis. See if the tendency is for that left hip to lift as well. Then see if you can keep the hips relatively level. Now, hands might be in prayer, more challenge, arms towards the ceiling. A little more help for the leg. You can grab the belly of that thigh. Now, when you're ready, take a deep inhale. As you exhale, kick that left leg towards straight, any amount. And then inhale, rebend. Exhale, extend. And keep going. Last one. Awesome. Now inhale, bend the knee, and then pause. Now keep that knee hugging up. We're going to head towards a warrior three, so you can keep the hands in prayer. You could also reach for your blocks a little sooner, so play it by ear. Take a deep inhale here. As you exhale, start to hinge from the hips. Keep that knee tucked as best you can, and then when the spine is mostly parallel to the floor, your option to reach the hands down, or when you're ready, you start to extend that left leg straight behind you. Now, maybe you're somewhere where you can see where the left foot is. You could also feel for the low back, see if the hips feel level here. Left foot stays active. Imagine that you're stomping it to the wall behind. And then most important, make sure you're still breathing. We're here for a few deep breaths. You can step that left foot back whenever you're ready. All right. As you exhale, step the left foot all the way to the back of the mat and then lower the left knee down to the floor. Patting. If you have something nearby, then go for it. And then you might choose to lengthen the stance a little bit as well. When you're ready, bring your hands up onto that front thigh. You can interlace the fingers if you like, and then let the pelvis get as heavy as it likes here. If you want a little bit more, then you might think about pressing the hands into that thigh, maybe finding a slight back bend here as well. And gaze can follow if that feels good. Now notice, imagine that there's a long line all through the front of the body, down that left leg, down to the foot, and breathe space into that. Awesome. With an inhale breath, lifting up, and then pause here for a moment. When you're ready, you can bring your hands down to the floor, move any props out of the way. Back knee lifts, take an inhale breath, and exhale, step the left foot forward. Now check in here and take about 5 breaths wherever you need. I'm going to be in a forward fold, but if you'd rather come to standing, you can go for that. If you'd rather be in a squat, then maybe choose that. And there's no rush to go anywhere, but over the next few breaths, think about a transition that you'd like to take up to your standing pose, and you can start to make your way there when you're ready. When you arrive in mountain, set yourself up and then check in for a moment. Take that scan through the body. Notice what everything feels like. Notice the side we just worked on if there's something, or the side that we didn't work on if there's something. And just check in. And then when you're ready, flutter open the eyes, wiggle the fingers and the toes. Now, if your blocks are still there, if you know that you'll need them, set them up. Left foot, lift the toes, spread them out. Really ground down through that left side. Gaze point, find it if that's helpful for you. And when you're ready, lift the right knee up to center. And then check in here. Notice the pelvis. If it feels level, you can point or flex. Hands to the thigh, to prayer, to the ceiling. Notice what the shrug muscles are doing as well. If they're hunched up, maybe you can soften. And then with the belly tone, take a deep inhale. And then extend as you exhale. Inhale. Exhale. A few more. Last one. Inhale, bend the knee. And then pause and keep the knee hugging up. Deep inhale, lengthen, and then start to hinge from the hips. And as the torso comes towards parallel, hands can stay or release, and start to extend that right leg straight behind. And again, maybe you have the option to bring one or both hands to the pelvis. Could you balance something on it, or does it feel lopsided? See if you can balance that out. Keep thinking of that length into the spine. Back foot is active regardless of how high it's lifted. And keep breathing. If you're with me, stay for a deep inhale and exhale. And final inhale, lengthen. And lower the right foot all the way to the back. Lower the right knee down. And again, take a few breaths here. Take your time to set up. Maybe lengthen the stance. Maybe add a block for that right knee. When things feel balanced and ready, one hand and the other to the front thigh. And imagine making the pelvis really heavy here. Hands can stay, maybe interlace. Arms can slowly start to extend any amount. Lifting from the center of the heart, maybe the gaze lifts as well. With a tone to the belly, inhale, breath, lift up, and then pause for a moment. Hands can make their way back down to the floor, moving any props out of the way, and then step back to downward facing dog. A couple breaths, choose stillness, choose movement. You could also rest in child's pose here, or if your body's craving movement, maybe a few rounds of cat-cow or a flow. Be wherever you need to be for the next 5 or so breaths. If you're in down dog, lowering the knees. If you're in child's pose, walking the hands in. And then coming to a kneeling position, we'll swing the legs around, give them a little shake out. Awesome. And then from here, we'll start off, bend that right knee in towards the chest, and then set the right hand behind you. Inhale, breath to lengthen. As you exhale, twist towards the right. And keep that spine tall. Maybe take the gaze over that right shoulder. Awesome. The next time you inhale, unravel to center and take a counter twist. And then facing forward when you're ready, we'll lower that right knee out to the right for like a half butterfly shape. Right foot to the inside of the left leg, wherever feels most comfortable. So if that feels better at the calf, then go for it, or at the inner thigh. Option as well to lift the hips a little bit. It might give you a sense of kind of more space. And if the knee is floating, then also the option to use a hard block to support that as well. And we're setting up to fold here, so take a moment, check in with the pelvis, check in with the spine. Take a deep inhale to lengthen. And as you exhale, start to hinge your way forward any amount. When the spine starts to round, you might choose to release the hands to the floor, maybe let the head hang heavy. And notice what the left leg is doing. Does it feel better to add a bend to the knee, to flex the foot, or to point it? And feel free to give yourself some adjustments here. Listen to your body. We're about halfway through the shape, but if it's asking you to modify or to come out sooner, then listen to it. And if you're okay where you are, then a few more breaths here. When you feel ready with an inhale breath, start to walk the hands in, start to lift the torso back up. And from here, if you have a prop under the right knee, you can remove it. Step the right hand down to the floor, kind of just behind you and to the side, and we'll step down with the right hand, right knee, and left foot to lift the hips up. So right leg is like a kickstand here. And then with an inhale breath, reach that left arm up and over. Arm can be extended or elbow can bend, but find length through that whole left side of the body. And deep stretch from the foot all the way up to the elbow. Awesome. And then the way you came in, slowly making your way back out. Now, a little different from here. If you have a prop under, you can move it out of the way. We're going to take the left leg and swing it around, bringing the left shin mostly parallel to the left edge of the mat, and the right shin mostly parallel to the front. Now, even here, if things feel a little wobbly, if you're listing over to one side, then you might choose to support yourself kind of between the hip and knee. If the knee feels sensitive, feel free to support just the knee as well. And then one more option is to bring the feet closer to the body. If the shape doesn't really feel accessible, this might help it feel a little more accessible. And then from here, the options are to fold wherever kind of feels the best. If you want to fold towards the knee, towards the shin, or towards the foot, then choose that. And you might even check in to see which one feels the best today. And you should have some props nearby as well. If the head needs a little support, then maybe you can use that. Or if the elbows don't quite reach the floor, then maybe support them. And when you're ready with an inhale breath, slowly lifting yourself back up. And then take your time to come out of the pose. You can help that left leg back around and see what feels like a nice release. You might choose to windshield wiper a little bit. Awesome. When you feel ready, you can re-extend the legs out in front of you. This time we'll bend the left knee to begin with, left hand behind. And deep inhale, reach up. And then twist towards the left, arm around the knee, any way you like. And keep lengthening through the spine. Keep the sit bones plugging down. And a few deep breaths here. Inhale, breath, unravel back to center. Take your counter twist. And then returning to the midline, lower the left knee out to the left. And take a moment to set up this side. So again, maybe something for the hips, maybe something for that left knee. Find the most comfortable place for the left foot to meet the right leg. Grounding both sides of the pelvis here. Lengthen with an inhale. And as you exhale, start to hinge your way forward, hands along for support. And notice this side may feel different to the first. So if you need something a little different here, then go for it. If you're not quite ready to settle, that's fine too. Find a little movement in the shape. And keeping that awareness of the body, be with your breath here. And when you're ready with an inhale breath, slowly walking the hands back in, lifting yourself back up. And then if you're on a prop, you can remove it. If you have something under the knee, you can remove it. Left hand off to the left and behind you, and then ground down, right foot, left knee, left hand, lift the hips up, kickstand. And then inhale, right arm reaches up and over, arm extended or elbow bent. Lengthen that whole right side of the body. Awesome. And then the same way you came in, slowly lowering the hips back down. And then with the help of the arm, swinging that right leg behind you. Right shin mostly parallel to the right, left shin mostly parallel to the front. And then see what this side feels like. It may need different support. It may need kind of different positioning of the feet. And then check in, see where it feels the best to fold. And you can start to make your way there as you're ready. If it needs to look a little different to the first side, that's fine. Please accommodate whatever is going on in your body today. When you're ready, with the support of the hands, lifting yourself back up and helping that right leg back around. And then take a few breaths wherever you need. Maybe it's windshield wiper, maybe somewhere else. Awesome. And from here, when you're ready, coming down onto the back, any way you like to get there. Awesome. As you arrive, take a moment to get yourself comfortable, and then we'll collect the knees into the chest. Maybe wrap the arms around the shins and give yourself a rock here, side to side. Awesome. And reaching through the knees, catch hold of ankles, feet, or shins for happy baby. Maybe the feet come up like they're standing on the ceiling. And then you might choose a rock here, side to side. If you like a little more for the hamstrings, the legs, you might play with extending one leg a little bit and then rebending it to extend the other. Mindful of the low back. And when you're ready, you're releasing your feet down to the floor. Once they touch down, scoot your hips over to the left a few inches, and then lower the knees down to the right. If you like to add a cushion or something between the knees, then go for it. Find a comfortable arm expression. It can be T-shaped, cactus, or maybe hands are on the body. If you like to turn the gaze away from the knees as well, go for it. And breathe into your twist. The head can come back to center, and then the knees can come back to center. And hips to midline, then over to the right a few inches, and then knees lower down to the left when you're ready. If this side feels different or needs different support, then go for it. Add in whatever you need. If you like to take the gaze down to the right, then go for it. The head can come back to center, and knees can lift back up to center. And then check in here. If your body's asking for a last movement, maybe windshield wiper, maybe some other kind of stretch, then go for it. Otherwise, when you feel ready, you can set yourself up for Shavasana. So take your time to find any comfortable, symmetrical shape to rest in. And if for any reason being on your back doesn't feel good, feel free to rest on your belly or in a seated position. If you need to add any layers or props, then please do. As you settle yourself in, take one last scan through the body and just notice what everything feels like. And check in with your headspace, check in with your breathing. And the breath can start to return back to its natural inhale and exhale. And let the body get heavy as you settle in here. Slowly start to deepen the breath to reawaken the body. Wiggle the fingers and the toes, circle the wrists and the ankles, and give the head a rock side to side. You might take the arms up overhead and give the body a full body stretch, lengthening from fingertips to toes, wiggling shoulders and hips, and then rolling onto whichever side you have more space on. Pausing for a breath or two, maybe using that bottom arm as a pillow. And then as you feel ready to, with the support of the hands, coming up to find any comfortable seated position, using any props that you have around, and take a moment to lengthen the spine, to soften the shoulders. And perhaps collecting the hands in at the heart, bowing the chin in towards the chest. Take a moment to find a sense of gratitude for yourself, for your practice, or for anything else you feel grateful for. And thank you for sharing your breath and your energy today. Namaste. Thank you for joining me for practice today. And again, my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out and enjoy your week.